We begin in North Africa, where Egypt's interim prime minister is expected to start contacting candidates for his cabinet on Sunday and Monday. It is expected that the new cabinet will be sworn in by the end of next week. Hazem El-Bablawi, a liberal economist and former finance minister, was named head of the cabinet after the army ousted elected Islamist President Mohamed Morsi. CCTV's Yasser Hakim has more details.
Interim Prime Minister Hazem El-Bablawi announced that he has assembled 90% of candidates for his government. No names have been officially confirmed, leaving room for speculations, but already 3 ministers will continue from the previous government.
The Ministers of Defense and Interior will remain. They are solely in charge of the security issues, especially dealing with the demonstrations here and the terrorist militants in northern Sinai, where the army has launched a major offensive.
The third to continue is Hisham Zazua, Minister of Tourism, who succeeded in keeping incoming tourist numbers at a reasonable level amidst the political upheavals and violence. Bablawi also selected Ziad Bahauddin, an economic expert, as his deputy, given an indication of the priorities of his government.
The economy is vital. The Prime Minister himself is an economist, and he will work on reducing the budget deficit by attracting foreign investments, reopening closed businesses, and solving the problems of local industries and energy shortages.
Aside from economic reform, the government will oversee forthcoming elections, which was why all ministers are expected to be technocrats not affiliated to any political party to avoid bias. As a sign of good faith, El-Bablawi said he is willing to include members of the Muslim Brotherhood in his cabinet, hoping that this move will help foster reconciliation between all political forces. Yasser Hakim for CCTV, Cairo.
Let's get more details on the developments in Egypt. We are joined by CCTV's Adel Mahri live from Cairo. Adel, Egyptian interim prime minister is set to name his cabinet in the next few days. What are the expectations for this new interim government?
Well, as you heard Yasser speaking, there are many indications, but mainly being an economic government is the priority. The economy has been suffering for the past over 2 years, and it has become the first initial priority for all political parties to launch a series of reform campaigns for the country to maintain or sustain a balanced economy while the country tries to recover from the severe impacts that it has during the past 2 years. The government should be the latest statement from the interim Prime Minister Bablawi. He expects that the new cabinet will start on Wednesday after being sworn in front of the interim President Adli Mansour.
Adel, how critical is the decision by parties affiliated to the Muslim Brotherhood that they will not accept any cabinet portfolio as they continue protesting against the ouster of Mohamed Morsi?
Well, it's very critical. I mean, if they do not participate, then the polarization in the country that has been already deepening will get even worse. What's going on even today, we were surprised to find a press conference by the head of the upper house of the parliament, along with members from the Islamic stream, announcing that the parliament will continue, although it has been declared dissolved by constitutional decree from the president, and also a statement by the army during the July 3rd declaration to oust President Morsi. So they say clearly today they do not care about whatever procedures the army has taken with the interim president. They will proceed with the parliament as if nothing has changed and as if the constitution that was voted upon this year will continue as well. So this is an indication to the sense that the Brotherhood and the supporting political parties do not recognize the army, they do not recognize the interim president, and even more, they will proceed with what they see the regular form of democracy that used to happen before ousting President Morsi. So if this extends to the government itself, it means that the new government will not be capable of doing or proceeding or even trying to recover the current deteriorated economy, because they will increase their protests, which of course will impact the country's stability.
And speaking of the army, Adele, could it also be playing a role in this impending selection of the cabinet?
Well, there hasn't, of course, been any confirmation or solid information that this might be the case. But, of course, we know that the army itself has the upper hand to oust President Morsi. It was the one who accepted the political plan from the rebellion campaign founders and other political parties who suggested that the president of the Supreme Court should be sworn in or inaugurated as Egypt's interim president. So the army has been leading this change, but according to the official statements, it says that it does not want to interfere in politics. There actually has been some unconfirmed reports today that a U.S. official tried to meet with the defense minister, Marshal al-Sisi, today, and he rejected. He said that the army has nothing to do with politics, and if he needs to meet with someone, there's an interim president. In a reference that the army is trying to stress its solid position that it does not want to interfere in politics. It wants politicians to lead this transition, to lead the dialogue, and it so far believes that its only role is to maintain security. This comes after we witnessed yesterday tens of thousands of people in Tahrir Square and Rabaa Adawiyah Square, where Morsi supporters have been sitting in for over 2 weeks now, still demanding that the president would return. On the other hand, we've seen Tahrir Square where people were actually celebrating and trying to show that there's a national unity in the square.
No one could describe the events taking place in Tahrir as protests anymore. Egypt's landmark square that ousted both President Mubarak and Morsi is now celebrating. The National Salvation Front, along with the Rebellion Campaign and the June 30th movements, invited Egyptians for an iftar meal on Friday. Their efforts now is to unite all Egyptian sects together in the square, particularly those who were not welcomed before.
We want the people to feel that there is security and that the police is protecting them. The only thing that Mohamed Morsi did is that he united the police and the people together. Since the 25th of January revolution broke, I couldn't stand here in Tahrir Square.
Many were keen to participate. Parents took their kids to enjoy the music, fireworks, and the famous Egyptian snacks. Even people with disabilities joined.
أنا نازل أأيد شرعية الشعب مش الشرعية بتاعت مرسي.
I want to support the legitimacy of the people, not Morsi's. His legitimacy failed with the people.
أكيد شرعية الشعب.
The numbers of pro-Morsi rallies this Friday were much bigger. Muslim Brotherhood leaders invited all their supporters across the country to their main protesting area at Rabaa Square, all demanding Morsi's return to power.
The Friday protest at Tahrir Square ended peacefully. It was mostly celebrational, which turned the square from a political arena to a park. Adel Mahroui, CCTV, Cairo. In Tahrir Square, there was quite a significant mood among protesters who were present yesterday that they do not accept the participation of Muslim Brotherhood in any form of the country's transition. They want to exclude it entirely from the new interim period. But this, of course, is contradicting to what political parties who supported the June 30th protest, they say that they're still trying and will keep going after the Muslim Brotherhood until they convince them to participate. While those at Rabaa Square, Morsi's supporters, have no other choice but, or no other option they will accept, but to accept Morsi back as president. This is the main demand that they have now. Some have been actually raising new tones against Marshal Abdel Fattah Sisi, the defense minister. They want him to get out of the country.
All right, Adel, thanks very much for your time. Adel Mahroui live there in Cairo. Let's now head to Somalia, where a deadly blast has once again shaken the capital, Mogadishu. A suicide bomber attacked an African Union convoy on Friday, just opposite the United Nations base that was struck by a deadly blast in June 19th. CCTV's Mohamed Hirmoge has the details.
The attack on the highway leading to the airport in Mogadishu was aimed at a convoy of African Union troops. A suicide bomber rammed an explosives-laden vehicle on a convoy, killing at least 7 people.
We heard a loud blast and rushed over here. Then I was told 3 boys might still be at the tea room that caught fire. We are all confused. We cannot tell the casualty or damage caused now.
A suicide bomber with a vehicle hit the military convoy of the African Union. Neighboring shops were destroyed and many civilians were killed.
Bodies of civilians were pulled out from the debris of shops and tea rooms along the road. The African Union has confirmed that 2 soldiers on an armored vehicle were wounded in the attack. The scene of the blast is once again close to the city's fortified airport, which is the main base for the African Union peacekeeping force, AMISOM. Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab fighters claim to have carried out the attack and said the convoy was escorting American officials. Prime Minister Abdi Farah Shirdoon has condemned the attack and promised to step up security in the capital. Mohamed Irmoge, CCTV, Mogadishu.
Well, let's now take a short break. Coming up on Africa Live.
And it's the time for them to disarm peacefully, and they cannot. I suggest them to don't wait for a dealing by force, because we have also capacity for that.
Disarmament appeal, DRC puts rebel forces on notice. And Ethiopian Airlines to continue flying Dreamliners after London fire incident. Welcome back. The DR Congo government has warned all rebel groups operating in the country to lay down weapons or face retaliation. Congolese Army spokesperson Olivier Amoli told CCTV that now is the time to disarm. This comes days after UN peacekeepers clashed with a group of unknown gunmen, killing 4 of the attackers a few kilometers outside Goma. CCTV's Hilary Ayasiga reports.
Tension is high in eastern DRC, with the government threatening to disarm all rebel groups in the country. Congolese army spokesman Olivier Amoli says all militia groups must lay down weapons or face the consequences.
And it's the time for them to disarm peacefully, and they cannot. I suggest them to don't wait for a dealing by force, because we have also capacity for that.
This warning follows an attack on an M23 position by unknown gunmen. The M23 reportedly countered the attack, and the armed men ran towards a MONUSCO base before being fought off. The injured, now in hospital in Goma, claim to be civilians who fell in the line of fire.
MONUSCO troops decided to shoot at us. They shot one person in front of me, and I carried him. On carrying him, I was also shot, and they killed 2 other people. After that, they killed 2 more, and 3 were injured.
MONUSCO Forces Commander Santa Cruz defended the attack, saying their position was threatened.
What you mean civilians? That's the question. If they are with weapons and they attack our posts, they are not civilians. They are combatants or criminals. And then we are respond properly.
The head of the M23 delegation in Kampala, meanwhile, accuses Kinshasa of arming militias against them.
A big number of militias, which in their mind, and which are being armed by the government, and even FDLR, those armed groups coming from neighbor countries, they are all being armed by the government. So the government is doing a war through other organizations, through other groups.
Several rebel groups are said to have established base in eastern DRC and have destabilized peace in the country. The latest clashes between ADF rebels and Congo government soldiers sent over 18,000 refugees to Uganda, and the numbers could swell to 30,000 according to the Red Cross. This as UN deploys a combat brigade of 3,000 soldiers. MONUSCO confirms the Malawian soldiers will arrive in Goma in a few weeks. While DRC government forces demand that all rebel groups be disarmed, it leaves question marks on compliance, especially with the M23, who still think a political solution can be reached with Kinshasa through the Kampala talks. Hilary Yesiga, CCTV, Kampala.
And to Uganda now, where the East African nation is facing a refugee crisis. Tens of thousands of Congolese have been fleeing clashes between the Congolese army and the Allied Democratic Forces. This is a Ugandan rebel movement based in eastern DRC. CCTV's Alam Cheror has more.
The Al-Shabaab-linked ADF rebels on Thursday morning attacked a Congolese army base in Kamonga town, North Kivu province, forcing thousands of refugees to flee across the border to neighboring Uganda. The ADF, a Ugandan rebel group numbering about 800 to 1,300 armed, based in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, have been largely dormant for the past decade. But with their revival in strength, it could destabilize the Great Lakes region in a profound way.
They overran a town center called Kamango, and so people felt insecure to stay there. So we have got an influx of refugees, estimated over 40,000. We have collecting centers where these people pass to come in here.
The refugees fleeing the DRC have to walk more than 15 kilometers to get to the Ugandan border, most of them women and children. 60-year-old Congolese refugee Helena Kabalo has been walking for more than 12 hours to get to the Ugandan border. She says she fled when they had gunshots in their village.
We heard gunshots in Kamango. Then we were told an army commander has been killed. So we ran so fast so that they don't kill all of us. That is why we are here.
Earlier this year, a report by the UN group of experts on the Democratic Republic of Congo highlighted the activities of the armed group. The report claims that last year, the Al-Qaeda-linked Allied Democratic Forces had increased strength to more than 1,300 combatants, of whom 800 are trained and well-equipped fighters. A UN report alleges that there is a link between the Al-Qaeda and the ADF, and that the two groups' connections is spreading throughout East Africa. Alan Charles, CCTV, at the Uganda-DRC border.
Ethiopian Airlines said on Saturday that it would continue to operate its fleet of Boeing 787 Dreamliners. This comes after a 787 Dreamliner operated by Ethiopian Airlines caught fire at Britain's Heathrow Airport on Friday. Television footage showed an area on the fuselage that appeared to be scorched. Heathrow briefly closed both its runways to first contain the fire, which broke out while the plane was parked at a remote stand. No passengers were aboard. The latest incident comes only months after the Dreamliner returned to service. Boeing was forced to ground the new planes in January after batteries caught fire on 2 of its jets in a span of 2 weeks. Federal regulators approved the Dreamliner's return to service in April. Boeing said it had people on the ground working to understand the cause of the fire. The 39th session of the Parliamentary Assembly of Francophonie came to an end in the Ivorian economic capital. Nearly 300 delegates from 32 countries, among them a dozen parliamentary speakers, took part in the discussions. The forum, whose theme was Parliaments at the Heart of Nation Building, sought to promote the economic integration of the countries of the Francophone area, foster peace and manage crises. Participants also agreed on the promotion of the French language as a solid foundation of a single community from a trade perspective. Now, Andre, a Canadian senator, was elected the organization's new president, succeeding Sungalo Ouattara from Burkina Faso.
I consider this honor threefold. It is an honor for me to become president of this important forum, an honor to receive the Grand Cross of the Order of the Pleiades, and also an honor to be the only woman to take the presidency of the APF. We are still far from equality.
We thought together in Abidjan about the peace and the unity of our states, the fruitful cultural pluralism of the Francophone, the love for the right, true, and the beautiful things required by the art of the parliamentary representation, which includes the ability to think, to react, to hope, and to dream.
Time for us to take another brief break. When we return. Saving a species, we focus on an endangered North African horse breed.
zako zaenda nezangu zasa ng'ombe za melaboa hey. I was making a pretty penny. I was traveling the world. I went to a travel agent and I said, look, give me a ticket that's going to stop in every airport around the world.
We intend to cause havoc.
The witch used to cause riots. Places would have to be closed down for weeks to repair the damage because the fans rioted.
This story was almost lost. Suppose I didn't live like the rest of the guys did it.
Kenya says it will use all means at its disposal to win the war against poaching. This comes after a spike in attacks of its wildlife and a blacklisting warning. Experts say elephant poaching is now at its highest in 20 years. Maria Galang has more.
Following the warning issued by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wildlife and Fauna, or CITES, to stop poaching activities in the country, the Kenya government has announced it will not hold back on its fight to completely eradicate the menace. CITES had given the country 6 months to stop the smuggling of ivory and other wildlife cargo through the port of Mombasa. This follows the recent seizure of several containers with ivory and other contraband destined for the Middle East.
That from the highest level of government, we are aware of this menace and that we're doing everything possible that we can to cope with it and also to eradicate it.
When you have a passion for anything, you are ready to die for it.
International trade in ivory is grossly affecting the country's tourism sector, which is a major foreign currency earner, raking in an average of $1.2 billion a year. With the just commenced wildebeest migration at the world-famous Masai Mara, which draws thousands of tourists, Kenya certainly does not need any negative publicity. In December, 9 elephants were killed outside the Tsavo National Park in southeastern Kenya. This month, a family of 12 was gunned down in the same area. The menace is affecting many African countries, mostly elephants and rhinos. During the 1980s, more than half of Africa's elephants are estimated to have been wiped out, mostly by poachers hunting for ivory. The Kenya Wildlife Service is now working with international partners to stop the current situation. Cutting the illegal trade links from the origin to the end of the chain is what they see will help them win this war. Maria Galang, CCTV.
The Bob horse is a Northern African breed with a rich history spanning over 4,000 years. However, in recent years, there has been fears that the horse, which possesses a fiery temperament and a typical sport horse conformation, may be endangered as a result of the local government and residents' negligence in protecting the species. Jen Keo reports.
The Bab horse has been a feature from ancient times in Northern African Barbary region, where present-day Morocco, Algeria, Libya and Tunisia can be found. Currently, Algeria has become the largest horse breeding location. The horse species is famous for strength, super endurance, speed and fast response. The Bab is also a light riding horse, noted for its stamina. It has a powerful front end, high withers, short back, a sloping croup and carries its tail low. It is hardy with clean legs and sound hooves. It does not have particularly good gait, but gallops like a sprinter. The predominant color is grey, but bay black, chestnut and brown horses are also found. The Bab horse was expropriated for as a war horse during the Algerian struggle for national independence and played an important role in the liberation war against France.
The difficulties we are facing is that there is no government funding. We strive to breed horses.
The World Organization of the Barb Horse, founded in Algeria in 1987, was formed to promote and preserve the breed. Unfortunately, due to the complex political situation in Algeria, the organization has since the 1990s almost stopped working. Relief came after 2001 because Algeria entered a new phase of nation reconstruction. More attention began to be paid to the protection of the barb horse.
We need government assistance for horse breeding. We have tried our best. We even requested the Ministry of Agriculture to help us.
Promoting barb horse breeding is not clear. We have relevant horses feeding agencies, but the efficiency is very low. What we need is to unite keeping retails and establish a union of breeding barb horse.
However, the number of purebred barbs is decreasing, and therefore imminent measures need to be taken to preserve the barb horse breed from extinction. Jean Chaos, CCTV.